Hi, I'm Sunny, and I have a simple question for you today. It's going to be, were you acting immature that time? So think about a specific time frame or maybe a situation and an experience in which you were acting possibly immature, and then select the pile or piles of your choice when you're ready. So you can think about more than one occasion or several occasions. And I have 4 piles from left to right, pile 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you need more time, you're more than welcome to pause the video. Otherwise, I will go ahead and start with the first one. So for pile number 1, you guys have an 8 of Pentacles upright. So this is a yes. Let me place it over here because sometimes it gets blurry too close to the camera. So were you acting immature that time? Yes, but maybe it was because you were working on something or you were being petty. It could be that too, that you were being petty because maybe you wanted to finish first, or maybe you wanted to be the most diligent, or you had to end up working extra time and you had to stay back. So maybe that's why you were being immature, or your responses were being immature. It just feels that you're being maybe a little bit snarky because of work purposes or because of financial purposes, even at that. So anybody handling your money could have felt that, or maybe it just feels like you were in a, like, not a group setting, but like you were working or in a work mode, or you had, like, let's say you had your off day from work, but you still had your own errands to do, and you were just being immature while you're doing your errands because you had to do so many that day, or because nobody was making your time easier during your errands. It just feels like your connections, or maybe just your overall experiences that day were just basically you being immature, if that's just what you wanted to hear. But maybe you were immature because somebody was giving you a hard time, like the teller was like giving you a bunch of BS because you didn't have the right paperwork, or like you're missing signatures, or you put the wrong dates, or you put the wrong numbers in something, and then they made a big fuss about it and they started like going at you. So maybe that's what you were acting immature, and you started going at them. So that could be some possibilities as to why you were acting immature in that situation, or with that person in mind. It doesn't have to be someone that, it doesn't always have to be someone that's like a long-time friend or a long-time connection. It could be, but it just feels like maybe if it was like a quick person and you were like, were you being immature at that time? Yes, you were being immature, but it was possibly because this person was holding you back for a time frame much longer than was needed of you, and that could have been solved much faster. Or it just feels like you know this person from a long time, and this person was giving you so much little, like picking at you to the point that you were just being immature. So that's what I have for you. Next, pile number 2, you guys have the Tower upright. So this is a yes. You guys are are or be. I don't know why I wanted to stick to are in the present tense rather than past. It could be for some of you in the past tense, but for the most part, it could be a present tense of yes, you are being immature because you don't feel like you have control over something. Maybe the tower had to fall apart. You can't have control over everything, every little situation. Things out of your control have to happen, and you can't take it out on other people. So were you or are you? Yes. But of course, no one's going to call you out if only you see this, right? So only you can have the last word. But for this pile, it has to do with maybe some drastic change that was out of your hands. I don't necessarily feel it's emotional that came from within. It's not reversed, but I just feel that it was something that, like, an inconvenience to you. Like, example, the street lights end up not working, and because of that you're late to work. I keep wanting to just put work everywhere, but sometimes the work scenarios are so much easier for me to come up with. But because you have that, like, you had a not a boundary, but like a delay. There you go. You had a delay. You fell behind on a lot of work, and because of that, nobody else could do their work. So now everybody's depending on you, and you haven't caught up. And then they start like giving you stuff about it, like not stuff, but they start like giving you their 2 cents when you don't need to hear it. And everything is falling apart in the office just because you couldn't do your part, apparently, like on time, which had nothing to do with you, right? So sometimes it is your work, but it's something like things that happen outside of your hands can affect that and the results that you given. So maybe that's why you're having a tower moment, right? Something simple like that. But I usually don't associate tower moments always like with super simple things, more so things that were kind of piling up and piling up and piling up, and then suddenly, boom, that's why the tower happens. It breaks down. You have that tower moment because you know, and you knew it was coming, but somehow you just allowed it to happen. But it was necessary change. It was changes that were out of your control, or changes that needed to be done, and you couldn't do anything about it, or you could have done something about it, but you didn't do it on time. So that's why I feel like I gave you an example, maybe not the best example, because it's something that you kind of saw. Like, maybe you could tell that if you ever had an off day or something at work, if you didn't do your part, everything else will fall apart. So sure, you can see that as a foreshadowing of like, oh, this is gonna, like, if this ever happens, like if something goes wrong, it's just gonna fall on me, right? So it could be like that too, but use your own intuition for your own experience. But this is a yes, you were being immature, or you're taking it out on people and you're like going ham on people, and they're like, well, this person's like, this pile number 2 is like out for blood. And you're just like, I've had it. I keep thinking of that scene. Who was it? I forgot, but it was that scene. I'm gonna laugh if I think it's Snakes on a Plane. If that's the dumb title, I'm gonna laugh, but it's basically about snakes on a plane. I've never seen it, but I've just known the clip. Like, I'm tired of the snakes on the plane. Like, and basically everyone's having a fit because there's snakes on a plane. It just feels like that. We're like, you're like, I've had it. You just lose it. You lose your cool. You lose the control of your sense of self. You let people know that there's a lot going on inside of you. So a lot of anger. Pile number 3, this is a yes. You guys have the 6 of Cups upright. I think the light's kind of going down, so let me just, well, I'll just leave it like that. It's almost done anyways. So yes, you were being immature that time. I'm thinking about, let me just take a sip of water. I'm thinking about a specific time frame when it comes to you having a connection with a friendship, or maybe someone that you had a crush on, or like someone had a crush on you and you're being immature. I think that maybe, for example, if you were the other person wasn't interested, like if one party wasn't interested and the other person like knew that they were interested, but they kind of didn't let them down nicely, and this could be you, this could be them, but the other party, the second party, receiving that message, and like maybe, example, like you bought a box of chocolates for them and they just laughed and scoffed at it, and they just opened it and said, well, I don't want these chocolates anymore, and they just throw them in the floor, throw them in the trash. It could be that. But I think it's like being immature about it. But this specific question is, were you being immature? So maybe this could be you, where you were acting immature and like hurt somebody's feelings like that. Like you were being immature, like, well, I don't want this anymore, or that's not for me, keep it. And the person's like, no, I bought this for you. And then you got fed up and you're just like, well, whatever, and then you throw it to the trash. It could be like that, where you're acting immature just because you didn't want to reciprocate feelings, but they didn't take no. You know, like it's not on you necessarily, but you could have handled situations much more maturely, which you did not. That's why it's like, it's a past connection or a memory that you're thinking about, or maybe someone from the past that you had a crush on or a friendship with, and they reached out and you're talking and you were being immature about your responses. It just feels like that, where you were conveying something with your emotions, and maybe it's not always a love confession. It could be like imagine you and your best friend who haven't seen each other for like 5 years, end up meeting again, and you're like, oh, I'm so excited to see you, let's hang out. And then you hang out and you start talking, like, example, like, oh, I'm getting married, and you're like, congratulations. And then they're like, do you want to see the wedding dress? And you're like, sure. And maybe you had a few too many cups, right? Too many drinks in your hand, and you see the dress and you think it's ugly, and you tell them, well, it's so disgusting, why did you buy that, it's terrible, you should have bought something else with that money, that's so cheap, it's gonna look bad on you. And maybe you gave too much answers like that and their feelings got hurt, and you're being immature about it when you're like, I could have said it. You can't say it just as like ugly in a nice way, but you could have been minimal with your words, right? Like to where the point where they wouldn't have gotten so butthurt about it, because it's their taste, not yours. So whatever it may be, the situation may be, sorry, you were being immature. And it has to do with emotions here, and just being honest about it, maybe a little too upfront about what you really feel. But take what resonates. Pile number 4. You guys have no, this is the Empress reverse. So you weren't, now it's not so blurry. So pile number 4, you were not being so immature when you think about the specific situation, but I also think you were being very considerate. So maybe that's why you were wondering if you were actually, like, if your intuition was kind of telling you, like, maybe I was out of, why do I keep wanting to say like songs, like I keep thinking Out of Touch by is it Daryl and Oates? About I think it's Daryl and Oates. I could be wrong. I like that song, but like maybe you were like, I lost a touch of like niceness, I lost a touch of like consideration, or I lost something that was softer. And maybe that's why I left you wondering, like you came here for the confirmation of whether you were just being immature, or was it just in your head, or you're over thinking about some situation, like if you were just not like mature about it. So you were being mature, but you weren't being very emotionally concerned for people's feelings, maybe, or for yourself. It just feels like maybe you were being a little bit more selfish and icy, more focused on yourself rather than making everyone feel comfortable. There's nothing wrong with that, but it really varies on situation to situation. But I just feel that maybe it could have been, I think you yourself think that it could have been done a little bit differently. You know, maybe said a few more concerned words. Maybe you could have said something like that. Felt like example, when you say, can I have water? Please and thank you go a long way too, right? So you could have said, can I have a glass of water? Or may I please have the water? Thank you for the water. Like, you think that adding a bit of tone, like that tone of like connection, that softer connection, that softer energy, nurturing energy, could have changed maybe the tone of the situation. Even though you did mean it, it just, simple things could have changed it. So maybe that's why you feel that you fell short for some emotional aspects or situations. Maybe you weren't very nurturing to people. Maybe you weren't nurturing to yourself. Maybe you're trying to focus on yourself and kind of give more to yourself, and you know, consider your feminine energy too. But it just feels like whatever you may be thinking of a situation, you were not acting immature. That's just you being very emotionally intelligent, but you might have not had the tact at the time. You're like, ooh, I could have said nicer things. Like I could have said my condolences to you or something, but you didn't. So maybe you didn't say anything. Like, sure, that was a considerate, reasonable option to say, but or not do, but you could have said something, right? So it just feels like you're overthinking about something that you know that you could have said so much better. It was still mature, but just not very emotionally connected to people. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon, and have a great day, everybody. Bye.